Hello, everybody. The football experience is back after a 2 week hiatus. Caleb had a little bit of a cord problem with his laptop,
I
so
did. Yeah,
yeah, he
yeah.
had to wait on spare parts pretty much. So we
And then scheduling got in the way once it
yeah
came in.
yeah, and
So,
then
so we're here. We're here.
yeah, you
It's the
know,
start of the season. I mean, we don't know anything yet, so we don't need to be on here all the time. But
yeah,
it's good to be back.
there's nothing really there's no big stories evolving just yet, and the transfer window ends in 3 days, I think. So there's still some things that can shake up the storylines. But I think it's only fair to start at one place, and that's with your beloved Liverpool, and then we can get into some things that you want to discuss, or some storylines that you want to take us into.
No, we have to start on the back of this. I don't know what to call this performance because
It's a bit of everything.
I've well the game. I guess we should start on the game, shouldn't we? And honestly, it was that first 30 minutes was everything, I think. And then it sort of got into that pattern of being 10 versus that Newcastle team. And then I would describe it as a lightning bolt because I don't think Liverpool really. They were down to 10 men. They were performing well with 10 men, but it wasn't like
Probably better with
they were
10 men.
creating. Well, we're going to get into that. There is something. There is something I want to sink my teeth into on the back of that, but I think it's only fair we start with the match. And I don't know. Newcastle against Liverpool always seems to deliver some sort of crazy game. It seems like since Newcastle have been a better team than us, that we just sort of have this curse over them, this voodoo sort of thing. I mean, that 98th minute winner at Anfield last season, and then
I think,
us
and just
not playing
to
well.
this is
Yeah,
butt
go
in.
on.
I think the commentator mentioned that there's like a 9 year record that Newcastle hasn't beaten Liverpool, home or away.
That's incredible if that's
Yeah.
true, but yeah, it seems that way. Even in those classic matches from back in the mid 90s, it would be Liverpool who were popping up with the winners. So yeah, it just seems like if we have these kind of exciting games with Newcastle, they seem to go our way, and this one was no different. And yeah, like I said, I think it kind of came out of nowhere, but I think I want to see where you take us. I'm sure you'll probably start somewhere in the first 30 minutes with what really caught your eye out
It
of the game.
was it was really like chaotic and unorganized from Liverpool in the first 30 minutes, and it seems like there was some like nervousness in the team. Like if what Trent got a yellow card in the first five
Well,
minutes.
do you want to start there? Do you want to
Well,
start with the whole Trent 90 seconds or whatever?
yeah, like he could have honestly had a red card as well, because that
He,
I've seen yellows be given for those kinds of fouls or stoppages, the way you want to describe it. I'm assuming he didn't get a second yellow because it would have been his second yellow. The ref decided it would be too harsh to send him off for that. But you've seen, we didn't talk about the Tomiyasu one against Crystal Palace from a week ago. That was less of a foul than what
oh,
Trent
so much
than what Trent
less.
did.
Oh, so much less. This was his second yellow card, but if you like you said what the referee's thinking might have been in terms of too harsh for a second yellow, it wouldn't have been on that infringement. But it would have been too harsh because the whole situation doesn't exist if he just gives the free kick for Gordon pushing Trent in the back. And I think that just fired up everyone from Liverpool. And it obviously fired up Virgil way too much. Virgil, wow. We'll talk about that.
You
That's
know
another
what?
incident. But we'll
That
stay
that
on the Trent one. We'll stay
yeah.
on the Trent one, but it should, for the infringements, it should have been a red card. And Trent, to your point, I don't know. Here's my hot take on this whole thing. Was it nervousness? I don't know. On behalf of Trent, I don't know what caused him, but it was recklessness. He was being reckless in those first 20 minutes, and I kind of liked it. I knew it was wrong, and if I'm coming on here and being objective, I should be saying how stupid and absent-minded it was. But I was just like, you know what? This Liverpool team needs a spark. We need something. We need to go to a place like this and just be maybe a little bit reckless and get people involved again. And honestly, me as a Liverpool fan, that was the spark that got me involved in the game. When that whole sort of 90 seconds, what was going off between the benches, as Liverpool supporters, like feeling aggrieved by the poor decision in the first place that could have avoided the whole situation. And it was just, that was the moment where I was just like, all right, I really want to win this game. I really want to go there. I want to shut Eddie Howe up. I want to shut Hinsdale up. I want to let's silence this Newcastle crowd and honestly, it didn't feel that way, but for me, that moment, that sort of, even the first 30 minutes, that was the spark.
It definitely felt like there was something going on there, like in that first 20, 30 minutes. But I still feel
but to the objective point, they were reckless. Liverpool was so reckless.
Yeah, it was recklessness, and it was what's the term that Klopp likes to use? Organized chaos. This was not organized chaos. This was just chaos. And it had to be Trent of all people as well that screwed up for the goal as well, didn't it? And against Anthony Gordon of all people. So like those two are having that little mental battle. Yeah.
But I got to say, here's my little take on that as well. And this kind of goes into, all right, and we'll talk about something else that Klopp said off the back. Or should we go into Virg? No, let me stay on this thought, actually. And then we'll go into Virg, because I have more thoughts on that. But for the Trent mistake, I know it's a Trent mistake. He should control that ball. I always say, like, when I was doing the coaching, it's possession play is such a rhythm. So it's all about if the pass is good, the touch will be good. If the touch is good, the pass will be good, and so on. And then, like, I don't know, obviously playing the game, you can feel it. Sometimes when you're doing, like, a passing drill or something, you could just hear the rhythmic pattern of the ball when it's, like, just flowing. And what happened, like, firstly, Salah's pass wasn't very good to Trent. That was a pretty poor pass. Like, it wasn't egregious, because Trent easily could have controlled it, but it wasn't a great pass. It wasn't, like, played with care and thought to where he'd want the ball. And then the thing that kills me is Trent makes a mistake, fine. Where is Joel Matip going? Why is he walking into midfield when we have possession of the ball, but it's like, it's not contested possession, but it's Newcastle putting us under heavy pressure? Why is his first thought not, my job is to defend, first and foremost? Like, so if Trent makes that mistake, I'm still behind him to mop up on that and just get that ball and we can play. Or if a Newcastle player gets it, then I'm there to stop that. Why is he mindlessly walking into midfield? It's a bit of a sign of the times, and especially the sign of the times with Liverpool, in terms of just our mentality to defending is just awful. It's so absent-minded. It's like we're going to St. James's Park. We've enlightened this game. We've like lit it up with a fuse. And my thought isn't, I've got to defend. And Joel Matip is experienced. So for him to be so absent-minded, for him to be thinking we got to go forward now that we got the ball, it just, I don't know. It's indicative of what Liverpool do. And to the other point, Klopp post-match, and I'm paraphrasing, said, obviously when you go down to 10 men, you can be harder to play against because you become more of a union, you become more compact. Well, for fuck's sake, why don't you just do that when we have 11 men? Why isn't that our mentality when we have 11 on the pitch? Why isn't it, let's go to St. James's Park and let's be compact and let's defend and let's make sure our mentality is first and foremost to be secure and then build on that. But it seems like we try and do things the opposite way around. It's like we start with how good and how free-flowing we can look in attack. And at times we really can. Our ceiling as a team is really high, but it's built on a foundation of sand. And it annoys me. Now, maybe, hopefully, coming away from this, he sees that the foundation needs to be built on concrete, and we need to get that resilience and that toughness back that made us so good, particularly in 18-19 and again in 19-20, when I think we were at our peak. It was defensively that really put us to the next level, not so much attack. The attack looks flashy, but for me, it was always the defensive players. So I gripe with that. I hate hearing that after the game when we could have. Let's just make that our mentality from the start. We shouldn't have to go down to 10 men to do that. But when we were down to 10 men, he's right. We were more compact. We were harder to break down. I knew Newcastle had their chances, and rightly so, because let's not forget Newcastle are a great team, and they're playing at home in front of, let's say, James's crowd. That's why I think Liverpool at the end could feel how big a win that is, because I think everyone recognised, Man City even, and I guess we'll touch on that game, but Man City I think could recognise that a 1-0 win at home against Newcastle is a great result to win that game. So I think they are. I think the other big clubs are giving Newcastle their recognition, rightly so. And yeah, to be resilient there is good, but can we just make that a bit more of our priority, please?
Well, to sort of add on to like your whole defensive point and everything, but the other thing that you have to remember is that you guys defended from the front with Firmino, Salah, and Mane, and also your midfield as well. Like Henderson would chip in and make that like a press with the front four, and you've lost essentially 5 of those, like 6 players all up, because you lost Fabinho as well. Like you've lost a number.
Wijnaldum as well. Wijnaldum was massive.
So,
but I think I got to say Sobersley.
Oh yeah, he's looking really good.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, you're starting almost afresh. Like, I know that Nunez this is his second season there. Diaz, he missed pretty much all of last season, so this is technically his second season. Who else? Gapco. This is going to be his.
Yeah, Salah's the only constant.
Yeah, exactly. So you're starting almost afresh with an entire front 6. The only constant has really been the back 5, and
not in performance though.
Yeah,
maybe in personnel,
but also like when you're changing everything in front of them, and those pressing patterns have changed in front of them, then it probably creates more openings for the opposition. So they're probably being put under more pressure than what they would have been back then, and that's why you're probably seeing more mistakes as well. Maybe you also see more mistakes because the team has aged like that. Like Van Dijk is 29, 30 now as well. Matip is as well as 30.
We'll talk a little bit about
it. But that's still a prime age. It's not a bad age to be playing. It would be different if he was like 35, 36. It's like, okay, you can clearly see he's lost a yard of pace. But also don't forget, have you personally had like a really serious injury or no? Like I remember first time breaking my collarbone, and like it took me like a whole year to sort of get over being, I guess, like scared or cautious about going in for like just shoulder bumps and stuff like that, like just side to side jewels. And that really set me back. And like obviously Van Dijk had that major injury with his was it with his ACL or? So, you know, that maybe that's still playing a part in the way that he's defending. Maybe
we'll talk about Van Dijk, but I think on your point, I think that's a really good point. I think your point shows the insight and why I guess it led me to say we think about this backwards, because that's exactly what Jurgen Klopp does in terms of defending. It is, to your point, defending from the front. That's where his starting point is. And yeah, I don't know, man. Well, maybe that's what made us great, but we got to transition to, like I said, the performances of the back 5 not being the same, and Virgil Van Dijk. And can we both agree it was a red card, right?
I will play a bit of devil's advocate here, and initially, all right, on like the live action play when I saw it, I was like, okay, it looks good. And then they started showing some replays, and then from a couple of angles, it looks like he got his foot in between Isaac's feet, and then on another angle, it looked like he took out Isak's foot first before he got to the ball. So and they didn't show any like sort of slow-mo replay of it. There was all like live replays, but just from different angles. So on some of them, it looked really clean. I'm like, that's great. That's a great tackle. And then on some of them, it's like, okay, I can see that he took the foot first. Obviously, VAR did check it, and they would have obviously slowed it down to see that he did get the foot first, but they didn't show it in slow-mo, because even on the angle where you saw that he got the foot first, they didn't put it in slow-mo, so even that was like, like 70-30 that he got the foot first. So yeah, like
trust me, in the moment, I wanted to go with anything that you just said in terms of being devil's advocate. But even I had to calm myself down. Like even that, I couldn't get on board with saying the referee got wrong, because I was just like, dude, you cannot just come in and recklessly swipe at the ball when there's a player in the way. That's a foul. And the thing is, like, I think nearly every foul in today's game is a bought foul. It's like there's no like real ones where the defender comes in and just cleans someone up. It's always, for me, it's always like, and I'll use this one, the Fabio Vieira penalty for Arsenal. Now, the way the game's adjudicated, that is 100% a penalty. But he knows that the tackle is coming in, and he leaves his leg there so that he can be brought down. And it's fine, because the way the game is refereed, that's 100% a penalty. I don't even know if there's a grey area there, because should the attacker have to evade a challenge? Probably not. But he's still buying the foul. This one with Isak, he's not buying anything. He doesn't even know that Virgil's going to be so reckless in that moment and come through. And he's like, I think he's kind of shocked, Isak. That's why he's like down hurt, because he wasn't really like bracing for that kind of a challenge. And Van Dijk just comes in and cleans him up. And I'm like, wow, that's something you'd see in the 70s and the 80s. That's something you get away with back then, but absolutely no way in today's game. And it was denying a clear goal scorer. And even I just couldn't get on board with saying that was the right thing to do. Again, I love the spark that it kind of gives you. I hate that it's a red card, but I get why Van Dijk was so wound up, because I think as a Liverpool supporter, like I say, I could feel it after those 20 minutes of the Trent situation and everything and being in that atmosphere. But like the rational me has to say, the new captain of Liverpool Football Club cannot act in the way that he acted after that moment. In the first instance for the tackle, and the second instance, the way he reacted about being sent off. As much as I applaud you berating this referee right now, I've got to say, like, you're the new made captain, and you acted like that. That can't happen. You're representing a football club way too rich in prestige to be doing that, and that is a really bad one. He'll probably get extra games for the way he reacted as well.
Yeah, I imagine.
So we might be looking at like 5-6 games.
Yeah, straight reds is already
captain of Liverpool. Exactly. That just can't happen. So he's really let himself down big time there. And the funny thing is, the other guy who was acting recklessly was our vice captain, who got the armband after he got set off. So these are the two guys that we put in our leadership positions. Man, I think as the season goes along, we might start to miss the Henderson Milner presence in that group, to be quite honest. But who knows? Maybe this performance, maybe this result is a spark that gets us going, or maybe we go and, I don't know who we've got next week, but we lose 1-0 away at Bournemouth or 1-0 away at Forest, like we did after beating Man United 7-0 and beating Man City at home last season. So I can't say too early. I think even Klopp said that after the game. He doesn't know what this result means. But yeah, I don't know if you had anything more on the Virgil, or if you wanted to go into the topic of what it means, or...
No, not really, because, I don't know, Liverpool's just so unpredictable at the moment. Like, at least 2 years ago, you knew exactly what you were getting. Now it's like, well, I don't know. You don't know. You literally don't know what you're going to get.
Well, the last topic on the match is the epitome of what you just said, and that guy who pops up with the 2 goals. Darwin Núñez, talk about you don't know what you're going to get.
Well,
we got really good.
How did you
Darwin
describe him last year? The stallion.
the wild, wild horse that needs to be broken in.
But maybe it's a good thing that he isn't broken in.
Well, it definitely was a good thing in this moment because you get moments like that. I would argue Luis Suarez wasn't broken in that season. He scored 31 goals in the league, but man, like you can get some real exhilaration with players like that. So that was the finishes was really nice as
Yeah,
well.
they were both like
In the side netting, in
both
off the
very
post.
similar as well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, and I felt. Look, another story on the Newcastle point is I know Sven Botman makes the mistake for the goal. It's kind of unlucky. The ball's kind of like just there,
Yeah, it's not
and
really.
then
It wasn't a mistake. Like the Trent one was a
yeah,
mistake. This is like the ball takes like this weird bounce or weird touch, and then like you're facing the wrong
off his
way, and
back,
then
he tries to fix it.
yeah.
Yeah, and then the Nunez finish is great, but then his injury. This could be really bad if he's out for any prolonged period because if you said what's the one position Newcastle can't afford to lose a player, I think we saw it for the Nunez's second goal when Dan Burn had to play there. It's not the same. Sven Botman is a beast, and Dan Burn, while such a serviceable pro, I can't quite build a team on Dan Burn being back there. I can build a team on Sven Botman being back there because he's such a presence, but if I leave this guy, Dan Burn, a bit too exposed, we're in trouble. So Newcastle might have to change the way they play, and that like I say, I think they've almost taken Liverpool's place in the league now. Maybe this result kickstarts the transformation back, but yeah, I feel like and the way they build is to press, and that's what they do so well, and they do so physically. And if they're missing what we keep calling their queen on the chessboard. That's a really big loss for them. So we're talking about Virgil being a loss for Liverpool. He's nowhere near as big a loss as... In fact, is it wrong for me to say... It depends if Kanate's fit or not, because obviously he wasn't fit for this match, and he's never prolonged period of time fit. So I don't want to build anything on him. But when he plays, for me, for maybe all of last season as well, he's better than Virgil at the moment when he plays. So maybe I'm more excited to see a defense build on him, but we'll see. I don't know what this means, like we keep saying, but yeah, what a crazy game. It's the only place that we could have started. And yeah, on the Newcastle point as well, I know they've played the toughest test, and Villa you could put in that sort of category as well, but they've already burned 2 losses, and that doesn't bode well for a title challenge. Maybe that's being optimistic in the first place anyway. But yeah, to burn 2 losses at this stage of the season, and honestly, they were so good in both games, I got to say. Like, they weren't perfect. They could have been better, but they were really good. I thought their trip to the Etihad, it looked like an old school sort of top of the table clash, didn't it? In a 1-0 win, one team goes there, real disciplined, real grimy, real dogged. And honestly, in that moment for the Alvarez goal, if Nick Pope is just a little bit better, I think he could have saved that. And we're not talking about City winning. I know Haaland missed those 2 chances, and on another day he scores them, although he's maybe getting that rap of not scoring in the biggest games in the league and the ones that mean the most. But yeah, on other days, like we say, they could have got 3 points from this Liverpool game, and they could have got a point from that Etihad game. So I'm not worried about the performance-wise, but to burn 2 losses, yeah, it kind of hurts them. And on the flip side, this is one of those ones, maybe like the Liverpool trip to Old Trafford. It just flips everything for Liverpool, and their season could really maybe go on and do something. Again, I'm not holding my breath, but if something's got to happen, if something's got to give us that jolt, it's the lightning bolt that struck St. James's on the weekend.
Yeah, I think that, like you mentioned, burning 2 losses. I think this one's way more damaging just because it was against 10 men. It was at home. They were already 1-0 up, and there was that chance as well, still at 1-0, where Bowen didn't square it to Wilson. And then I think you guys scored like 5 minutes after that. It was like a clear chance if Bowen squared it. Oh no, Barnes, not Bowen. Sorry. Yeah. Like.
And we didn't mention the Alisson save as well, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah. So.
From Alvaron.
Like this one's way more damaging just because it's at home. And considering obviously that they were 1-0 up, so the Man City one they were probably always expected to not win that, maybe get a draw, but they were never expected to win that game. at the Etihad. But yeah, I'm not overall. I'm not too worried about them. It's going to be interesting to see how long Botman is out for, though, because that could, and depending on what fixtures they have coming up, like if he's out for the next 6 weeks, maybe all 6 fixtures are against like bottom of the table teams, or like 4 of the 6. Like I don't know how long he's out for, but yeah, like maybe they have some luck there that they're not facing any of the top teams while he's out.
We'd hope not after this start to the season, having to play City and Liverpool in consecutive weeks. But on the topic of worry, I think this takes us nicely into what we could talk about, because I guess we won't do like a breakdown of the weekend, but it'll be heavily implied, and the last 2 weekends will be as well. No, we got to start with the biggest story, and I guess we've got to kind of, which is very hard for us to do, but we've got to kind of put on maybe a Manchester United supporters thinking hat here. And maybe that's difficult for both of us to do, but would you be worried as a Manchester United fan at the moment?
Well, I didn't watch the Forest game, but I saw that they were 2-0 down.
In like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The goals were shambolic as well. Absolutely shambolic. The set piece one, it had me thinking, are we going to have to ask questions about Lisandro Martinez's height? A taller defender would have headed that away. We're back to this point again.
We're bringing that topic back.
It feels like we are at the start of last season with Manchester United again. Except at least last season, the 3rd game they beat Liverpool. But they've got 6 points.
They have 3 more points than what they did last season after 3 games. But by all accounts, they never should have won against Wolves. That should have been a draw at the very best, if not a loss. This one, like I said, I didn't watch the game, so I can't judge it on the whole 90 minutes. But I can say that, if a team is already up 2-0, then, giving up a 2-0 lead, it's quite unfortunate, but, credit to Man United for coming back from behind.
I gotta say, it was always going to happen. Like, I watched this game, and once Forest were delirious after 3 minutes, going like 2-0 up, I'm just like, this is way too early. They've done this way too early. They're not going to be able to hold on to this. And it proved right. But, man, I'm not impressed by the Manchester United's performance. If I was a United supporter...
The 2 games that I did watch, Wolves and the Tottenham one, I wasn't impressed by them at all for the entire 180 minutes.
Yeah, I think their best half was the first half against Tottenham, and even that wasn't
like
all that impressive.
Yeah.
They were fine. They were a bit better than Tottenham. Obviously Bruno misses that unbelievable header in the first half. He's been I don't know, United just in general have been they've been shambolic. They don't look like a team who have spent a year under Ten Hag. Have I seen a more useless signing than Mason Mount? I don't think so.
Well, he's injured now.
He is. And I guess Eriksen scores the first in the comeback against Forest, so maybe they're better having him in the team. I'm not disparaging Mason Mount as a player when I say this, but he's for me, he's a useless signing for Manchester United, because for me, he's like a garnish on a foundation that you have. But I think I said this 2 weeks ago, but like I said, Casemiro is the wrong side of 30 now. And he was doing so much work in that midfield by himself already. And you've just got another attacking midfielder to play next to him who is pretty much Eriksen, but who hasn't been doing the job as long as Eriksen. So, you haven't got him any reinforcements. Casemiro was playing like a headless chicken against Nottingham Forest. I love Casemiro. He's been in my first team for the last 2 seasons. But man, it's not so much any decline age-wise like that. I felt would have been more gradual than this, and I'm not attributing all of this to that, although I think that's just science. But for me, it's his leadership. I think he's not as committed to his screening duty. He feels like he's trying to do too much now. I applauded him last season for evolving his game slightly and adding more strings to his bow. But in this game against Forest, he was trying to play as an out-and-out number 10 and get all of those goals back at once, and he missed a sitter as well before they finally turned it around. But I felt like he was trying to do too much. I felt, yeah, and in that moment, he sort of, when they went 2-0 down, you could say it was urgency because they turned the game around. It didn't look like urgency to me. It looked like panic, and it's like, oh, I need to do everything to get us back in the game. Meanwhile, if they were playing a team who were 5% better than Nottingham Forest, because let's be honest, Nottingham Forest aren't very good. There were huge gaps to counter attack and be at Lisandro Martinez and Rafa Varane, who have started the season terribly. Andre Onana, I think, probably goalkeeping wise is a little worse than De Gea, but like we've said, it's all for that distribution. So, man, there's no doubt they can turn it around because they did it last season, but I'd be worried that we're even at the point where it looks like they need to turn anything around. Because, like, they had a whole season under Ten Hag last season, and I haven't seen any progression. In fact, maybe Ten Hag's great performance last season was a byproduct of the start that they had, because I felt they played their best stuff when he pissed away his ideologies a little bit and said, look, you know what, in this moment, that's not going to work. We need some sort of resilience. And honestly, that's what a team should always be built on. So, I don't know, maybe it feels like he's thought this United team were ready for him to implement all his ideologies. And ultimately, for me, that shouldn't be blamed on the players. That should be blamed on the manager. You work with these players every day. You can see what level that they're at. If they're not quite at that level, for me, you need to adjust slightly. It's managing and coaching is all about the players. You work for them. They don't work for you. So you need to put them in the best position to succeed. And if he's trying to get something out of these players that they can't do, and if he's used all of the off-season to try and forgotten about that foundation that they built on the back of starting so poorly last season, if he's done that and then they've lost that, which it kind of looks like, again, we don't know anything, but from these 3 games, they have been, like I said, shambolic, and they've picked up 6 points somehow. So yeah, they're probably my biggest story that I've seen early on.
Well, remember,
and also it opens up the whole top 4 race,
yeah,
which is great for me as a Liverpool support.
You know what it sort of reminds me of? It reminds me of remember Tottenham last year, where they were getting results with bad performances, but then eventually the wheels just sort of came off. It could be that again, where they're still managing to get these results, luckily, but then eventually, like, it's going to catch up with them, unless something does change drastically. The thing
well, I will say, just quickly, in defense of Ten Hag, he has shown himself to be adaptable before. But so he could do it again.
But the thing is, like, who besides Onana or Mount, like, who did they actually sign to, like, really?
And we're waiting on Højlund, which is another story in itself. Because if they're not performing well, he has to come in and be the savior. No, that's not going to happen.
But for instance, like, you look at these signings, didn't really, like, take the team to the next level. Like, you look at signings, for instance, for City. Guardiola is the signing that takes the team to the next level. Believe it or not, whether they have a next level. Kovacic was pretty much a like-for-like replacement on Gundogan. Maybe a slight improvement, because I think he's probably better on the ball. Arsenal signed Rice. Timber's injured, and Havertz. Havertz wasn't really the one that lights everything on fire, but Rice was the one that takes the team to the next level. Liverpool, like, signing Szoboszlai and McAllister, I think if you didn't lose Hendo and Fabinho, I think it would have been like, okay, these are really good signings because you've kept
they're still good signings.
They're still really good signings, but losing those 2 experienced players to, like, sort of allow these 2 players to not be thrown into the deep end, because I'm not sure that they would be starting immediately. Maybe McAllister would have been.
They're showing that they deserve to be.
And maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that Hendo and Fabinho left and that they're being thrown into the deep end. But had they not have left, they would have been ushered in slower, and it would have been like, okay, we're building upon this. Whereas, like, now it's like it's a not like for like replacement, but it's a replacement rather than a building of. But they're still much better signings in my opinion because it's what you really needed compared to what Mount and Onana. Like Onana, I guess, yeah, because he wants to play that way, it's like what they needed. But Mount, I don't think they really needed Mount.
Yeah, they didn't need Mount. They need a different profile of midfield.
Yeah, and
Mount's not a bad player, like I said, but he's not the profile.
And you look at Tottenham, for instance, as well. Like if they didn't lose Kane, but they got Maddison in, and they got did they get another player in?
Yeah, they got Van der Ven at centre back.
But Maddison was like
Udogie at left back.
But Maddison looks like a great signing, and they like West Ham as well. They got
why are we talking about West Ham?
But I'm just saying like these signings that they've improved these teams, whereas like with Man United, these signings didn't really, at least I think from what I can see, they didn't really improve the team, the starting 11.
Yeah, I get that, but obviously Højlund comes injured. That's never a good sign when a player comes injured. But at the same time, I think Onana and Højlund were decent signings. I think they maybe could have got a more ready striker, especially with Colomboani being out in the market. I think he would have been a good signing to play with Rashford. Højlund definitely can become a good striker. Is he going to be the saviour this season? I think he's a bit young for that to fill those shoes at Old Trafford. And I think the Onana signing, I mean, yeah, like you say, for the way, but it's the Mount one. It's the Mount one where they missed. They needed a different profile. They needed more help in there for Casemiro to help them look more solid. Mount could still be a good player if United build a better system and just honestly as well start playing better.
But it seems
if they just start playing better, he comes into a better team.
You can't have Bruno and Mount in the. It seems that you can't have both of them because they're both. On the off the ball, they're both passengers. So
not quite passenger. Mount works, but it's just the experience level of being in there and the presence as well of being in there. Honestly, like if I'm being not harsh, but the midfielder I would have gone for as United over Mason Mount for what we needed would have been Granit Xhaka. I would have rather Granit Xhaka be in that midfield with Casemiro than Mason Mount, to be quite honest. And like. Would Granit Xhaka be my number one choice? Absolutely not. But I would prefer in terms of what the profile needs to be next to Casemiro now. So I don't know. I think we need to flag United. They've got a big red flag on them because these first 3 games haven't been really good. I'm wondering if do you have a storyline that you want to touch on, or I think you already brought one up when we were talking about the other teams.
What storyline is that?
Big Ange. Big Ange. How he's like a duck to water. They love him already. They absolutely love him already. I saw one of those inflatable kangaroos in the crowd as well. Man, I don't know how great the Tottenham team have looked, but
against United, I really liked how they looked. I didn't watch. I didn't watch the game against Bournemouth. Was it? But against United, I was like, wow, I'm actually enjoying watching Tottenham play. Like as opposed to last year, I was like, I avoided it like the plague.
Yeah, it's terrible. It was terrible. Oh man, but yeah, I think on the back of that, it's obviously the rapport is like it's instant. It's energized the fan base, and honestly, I've softened a bit on Tottenham in terms of how poor United look. And the fact that top 4 race is open. I don't know. They've got to be a dark horse at least. I wouldn't pick them, but they've got to be a dark horse at least. And yeah, the new centre-back, I believe, is Van der Ven from Wolfsburg. He looks pretty good. I think there's a mistake in there, but he'll get acclimatised to the Premier League. Romero looks better, I think. He looks a little bit more controlled. Whether that keeps up, that will be Ange's Midas touch if he could get him to be a semi-disciplined centre-back. Udogie, I really love Udogie. I think Vicario, the goalkeeper, has a mistake in him. I'm not sold on him, but we'll see. It's not been a bad start to the start of the season. And then, yeah, Maddison. I don't love like how much influence he seems to have straight away, but I mean, he's hit the ground running. I don't know if when the season maybe gets a bit harder, gets a bit sludgier, that's where we see Tottenham sort of have some poorer results. I still expect it deep down to be that way just because I don't quite trust this group of players. But at the same time, from the first 3 games, at least the fans are behind it. Because I think first impressions are so important for a new manager, aren't they? Especially an unproven one like Ange coming in at the age he is, from where he's from. Like, you need to hit the ground running, and that's not a scary proposition, but it's not a great proposition for those other clubs who want top 4. And yeah, I'm a supporter of one of them, so to have Tottenham seemingly in the mix, especially at this point, is interesting, to say the least. And yeah, to your point, they're so much better to watch. The inverting fullbacks are really good. Madison's getting on the ball. I mean, they're going to need more from Son and Richarlison and Kulusevski. To think the front 3 haven't really started that great, and they're still getting these results and playing the way that they're playing is really encouraging. So yeah, I think that's a story that needs to be flagged for sure.
The thing that I've sort of picked up on, though, is that it almost seems like Ange has been like, go and play with some confidence and freedom. Like, it seemed like with Conte and Mourinho before him, they were very like strict in like, let's be defensive, let's keep our shape, all this stuff. Whereas with Ange, he's sort of like being like, it's okay to make mistakes. Play with confidence. If you're confident in turning, taking the ball, running with the ball, do it. I didn't see these players. Like, I remember when I watched the United game. Was it Højbjerg? He came on, and then he did this turn where I think he let the ball go through his legs, and he absolutely skinned. It wasn't Wan-Bissaka. I think it was like maybe Casemiro or something. Like, he absolutely skinned him. I was like, I've never seen Højbjerg do that kind of turn before. It's like, well, where does this come from? And a lot of the players were very, just free and not afraid as well. And it seems like maybe Ange has brought that into the team as well, to like not like allowing them to not be afraid of making mistakes, which is actually a very good thing, because then you play with more confidence and you end up playing better as well.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is the case, but like I'll throw out a theory.
That's my theory as well.
I know, and I think that's what a lot of people would think as well, and I think that's fair to think as well. But when you say all of that, we're always thinking about like the possession-based stuff. I want to flip it and put it onto the out-of-possession stuff, where I think there's no doubt. I think if he's a coach who's come through the City sort of way of thinking as well, and no doubt he's been privy to probably a few Guardiola sessions being part of that City group, if you had the time to go over and see him and whatnot. And obviously maybe an insight into his mind. I think a coach like that, like Ange would, the first thing he'll be doing is demanding a commitment to the out-of-possession work. But he'd also be trusting the players, to your point, of doing that. And when they can do that, then, again, to your point, he could give them the freedom in possession of the ball. So I think we could always be blinded by the shiny new toy that Tottenham are. But the main foundational thing that needed to be worked on there was a resilience and a commitment to defending, which, even though they had Mourinho and they had Conte, it didn't seem to be there.
It's a different type of defending, though.
Yeah, it was almost... Ange is almost holding people accountable for what they do out of possession, and that's due to probably his ideology and the way they play football. Because if you play more open, expansive stuff, your defenders have to defend. Whereas maybe under Mourinho and Conte, the defenders thought, I don't have to do as much work because I have more protection around me. We're playing a 5 at the back. We're playing 2 holding midfielders in front of me. There's so much protection around me. And there can almost be a bystander effect. He'll get that. But in this system, you have to do your work. So now we're seeing players maybe take more pride in that because they know it's on display a little bit more. So maybe that's just a theory that I want to throw out on the back of yours. But
it's not just that. Like, I think they showed that I think they're defending like 10 meters higher up the pitch as well compared to under Mourinho and Conte. So they're defending higher up the pitch. There's less space for the opposition to actually play into, and like the front, it's sort of similar to like what Klopp likes to do and Pep likes to do, where they like to defend from the front, not defend from the back. Like get into shape, get all 10 players behind the ball, and then try either counter or regain possession, and then slowly build up the ball. Like this is more, let's try win it back up higher, and try to hit them while they're still not, while the other team hasn't organised their defense.
Yeah. And I reckon, do you want to go across London and finish? Who else? There's no one else we really need to mention in terms of that top four, unless Villa start to make a run. But I think if we go across London, what do you think of Chelsea? Did you have a chance to watch them on the weekend?
No, I didn't watch them on the weekend.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Their performance against Luton made me a bit softer on. Yeah, but, like in a good way, because I was pretty determined that this Chelsea team didn't look very good, but
yeah, but it's against Luton.
I know
everyone's expecting.
I know
Luton
it's against Luton. You got to preface everything by saying that, but they played a 5-3-2, and they looked like Atletico Madrid minus Antoine Griezmann. That's a big problem, but I don't know. Do you know how long the Nkunku injury is?
I thought it was like the whole season. Isn't it like an ACL or something?
Oh,
like
Jesus. Yeah.
It's like
I thought it was pretty serious.
Yeah, last I read it was like pretty serious.
Okay, so now it comes down to Raheem Sterling to be your Antoine Griezmann. And honestly, I don't think he can be as good as Antoine Griezmann, because Antoine Griezmann's unbelievable. But prime Raheem Sterling can be pretty good as one of the two, playing off Nicholas Jackson. The way he looked, I know against Luton, but the way he looked in that game, and the way he looked, who did they play before that?
West Ham.
They lost to West Ham, yeah, and he was actually really lively when Chelsea still looked good in that game. So he looks like he's trying to have a bit of a revenge season, it seems, because last season he wasn't very good at all. He'll need to if Nkunku's out. But the 5-3-2, I just like the look of it. Obviously, they bought Caicedo, now they've bought Lavia to go with Enzo Fernandez. It's a little bit more solid when they have... I don't know what the Reece James injury is again. And we're talking about two players who... I think Nkunku now... He's probably in that bracket of injury prone. And there's no doubt Reece James is injury prone. So when we're talking about these players, maybe it's unfair of me to expect too much just given their track record with injury. But... when you look at Chelsea on paper, when they have those pieces in there, especially Reece James, who hopefully could come back at some point for Chelsea's sake, they'll be a good team, because a 5-3-2 will allow those wing-backs to get further forward. And if it's Chilwell and James, and if Sterling can be playing well, and Enzo has started the season well, obviously Thiago Silva's great, Levi Colwill, that back three's pretty good, whoever you want to put with those two. I don't like goalkeeper. That's for sure. I don't like Sanchez in goal. Not for if you want to finish top four. But yeah, I think I was a bit softer after the Luton performance. I think they're in that hunt. The first 2 weeks I wasn't too impressed. But they're at least better than last season. That's not hard to be. But yeah, I think they're... Well, who would you have as more favourites, Chelsea or Tottenham?
Probably Tottenham.
Top four.
Just based on the visual aspect of it, because you remember how last season I was talking about, like, when you can just watch a team, and even if they, for instance, aren't getting results, but they're playing really good, eventually that will, like, the results will come. Whereas, like, Tottenham, for instance, the opposite happened, whereas, like, they're getting results, but they're playing horribly. That's going to catch up to them. So it's like the flip side. And I know Chelsea, they like, I watched them against West Ham. I watched them against Liverpool. They looked okay. They look better than last season, but there still seems to be something missing. I don't know. Maybe the Caicedo and Lavia signings. I don't know if all three, how Pochettino will set up the midfield, whether he'll set up like all three with Enzo, Caicedo, and Lavia. Maybe that'll end up being a really good midfield three. And then maybe things will start to flow a little bit more easier. But yeah, they're still missing a centre forward. Unless Jackson can prove himself.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's not so much missing a centre forward. They've got a profile of centre forward in Nicholas Jackson, who is going to work for the team. He's physical. He's a handful. Kind of like what they hope to be a better Mikel Antonio, really. Which I'm fine with, as long as the player next to him is the guy who does everything. Like Alvaro Morata at Atletico. He's a profile of striker. He's not world class. He's not Erling Haaland. He's not in that bracket, there's no way, but he does a job for the team, and he allows the other guy who plays next to him to flourish. And that guy's Antoine Griezmann for Atletico, and I'm guessing Chelsea are hoping it's Raheem Sterling. I think it is the best position for Raheem Sterling at this point of his career, and he's going to need to have a really good Raheem Sterling season for it to be enough to propel him into a top four race. But between them and Tottenham, I trust Chelsea a little bit more. I think they got better players. And I think ultimately football is 90% what you can put on the pitch in terms of the quality of players you have. And that's why I just take them over Tottenham. I think it's fair to think Tottenham on the basis of the football that they've played in the first 3 weeks. I don't think it's much between them and Chelsea, but I think you could give the edge to Tottenham. But I just think the players, I think Chelsea's ceiling's higher. I would give them a better chance. And I think obviously Pochettino has more experience in the league, which you think should count for something as well. So, yeah, I think that unless you have more thoughts, I think that puts a bow on sort of the challenges for top four before we move on to a little bit higher up.
Pretty much, yeah. Don't really have much to add, but I think at least visually right now, obviously Chelsea have spent, I think, like 800 million since Bowley's come in. You would expect them to do better than Tottenham, but at least visually, Tottenham are already playing better than Chelsea with less.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. And we started the top four challenges on the subject of worry. I wouldn't go as far as saying worry, but how are you feeling as an Arsenal supporter after the first 3 games?
Well, the first 3 games were what was the opening game again?
It was Forest
at home, and then it was Crystal Palace away, and now it was Fulham at home.
Wait. Could I give you some time to like really gather your thoughts? Can we take a little break and then come back for the Arsenal and the top of the table stuff?
Go on.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, we're back. Arsenal. Well, yeah, the first 3 games, at least on paper, you'd sort of say they give me games, or you'd expect Arsenal to win those games, and they've won 2 out of the 3. The one against Fulham was, it was like the performance itself was like it was okay, but like there was just those moments. Those were the moments that ruined us, and like obviously the first one is like the goal in the first like minute. And then the goal in the last minute or whatever, like in the 90th minute, whenever it was scored. But like the overall performance of the 90, it's like, well, it's not that bad. There's a bit of experimentation there.
Well, what do we judge? What curve are we judging them on though? Like, not that bad. We got to be judging them on usurping Manchester City.
Yeah,
right now,
see, I think there's some sort of experimentation going on there, obviously with Partey at right back, off the ball, but on the ball he then comes into the midfield and he sort of does what Zinchenko does, but from what I can remember of Zinchenko doing and what he actually did again in this game, Zinchenko, he picks his moment when to overlap and help Martinelli or Trossard or whoever's playing on that left wing, and he also picks his moments when to come into the midfield. Also, from last year, when Zinchenko would come into the midfield, then Xhaka would go out wide and create that overlap. That's not happening on the right-hand side at all. So Saka is being isolated. He's not getting that third player overlapping and creating like a 3-on-2 or a 3-on-3 situation with Odegaard. And that seems to be missing from the right-hand side because, Partey just isn't overlapping. So you're getting something similar to what you did with Zinchenko on the left-hand side, but you're not getting the same product. And then obviously there's Havertz, which this was a horrible...
Let's stay on the defence, and then we'll go into the other minutiae of where they've changed. Because I totally agree with what you said, especially off the second half of last season where I think Ben White was becoming... because to start last season, Ben White was just playing pretty much the Partey role, maybe not going infield as much. But as well, I haven't seen Thomas Partey go infield all that much. He has held a sort of position on that right side, more so than what Zinchenko, I think, would do on the left side, I've got to say. But yeah, he definitely doesn't overlap. And Ben White was becoming really good at overlapping and picking his moments and being a third party in with Odegaard and Saka in the second half of last season. But it also means that Ben White's playing centre-back, and who'd have thought I'd be saying this, but I'm kind of puzzled at the point we find ourselves with Gabriel.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the hell's happening there.
To the point where I've heard that they're looking to offload him in the last moments of the transfer window. How odd, because I just think that's such a weird moment to do it, him coming off the back of easily his best season. Now, again, I don't think he was the long-term solution, but I'm just puzzled that we've picked this moment to say, Gabriel, you're not good enough, when maybe it was that second half of the season, or not the second, but maybe the final third where they kind of lost their way. Maybe Arteta saw some things in that time that he didn't like, but in terms of defensive instincts, I still probably trust him more than Ben White as another centre-back. So Arsenal are looking to play this sort of more open style in terms of the personnel changes, but with less effect, particularly down that right-hand side maybe. So is this kind of tinkering necessary, really?
I think with the Gabriel point, there was I watched one of the interviews, I think it was before the Fulham one, and I think Arteta's response, they was asked about Gabriel, and Arteta's response was Gabriel knows why he's not playing. At first I thought, well, he played, I think he played all 38 league games, and then he played a couple of Europa League games as well, so he was as overplayed as Saka. So I thought, okay, maybe he's just giving him a bit of a rest for the start of the season because he had but then you can make the argument, why isn't Saka being rested? But we don't really have backup on that right hand side to give Saka a rest. Whereas we seem to be pretty loaded in defense, so we can give these guys some rest. But then after that response, I was like, okay, this must be a disciplinary issue, not a performance issue. Because we saw how Arteta froze out Aubameyang. It was something similar, and that response just seemed really cold.
It felt like that. It felt like it.
It's like the player knows what he did wrong, so he needs to rectify it. So it's not like he's I don't know. Maybe he's showed up late to training a couple of times. Maybe he's just taking it easier in training. I don't know what it is. But like Tierney's, for instance, left. I think he's gone to Real Betis, so we've lost him as a left-sided option.
On loan.
Associated, yeah. So like we've lost Tierney, which I didn't think we should have offloaded him. I think we should have kept him. So I'm not. Yeah, I'm not
especially
quite
after
sure
the Timber injury.
Yeah, especially after that, because Timber, I think that's an ACL injury, so I think he's out for the whole season. That's at least what I've read. But yeah, I'm not sure what the hell is going on with this tinkering, because I would much rather Partey be playing holding mid from the start, and then the midfield to be Odegaard and Rice in front of him, and Rice to be a direct replacement for Xhaka, because when Havertz has not impressed me at all. I think in the first game he was like, I don't mind this, but I think he was playing as a number 9. I don't think he was playing as an 8. He's
a luxury player. When the team's playing well, he's fine. When the team's not playing well,
he's not an 8. He's not an 8 though. Like he hasn't. Like he's not now that 8. Yeah, I'd much rather have Xhaka there, because his runs were much different, and the way that he works for the team was much different to what. And it seemed like he could offer more than what Havertz offers. So, yeah.
And do you expect more tinkering in that back 5 with goalkeeper in the near future?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to be happening with Raya. Like, is he going to be... Because he was a first-team goalkeeper for Brentford, so it's like, okay, if he only plays FA Cup games, that he isn't playing till January. I think that's when the first round is for Premier League teams. Carabao Cup, I think, starts this weekend or something, or this week, I don't know, or next week. So Carabao Cup, if depending on how far they go, he gets like 2, 3, 4 games. FA Cup, he might get 2 or 3 games, depending on how far they go again. Champions League, does he play Champions League then? Which starts, I think, in like 2 weeks' time. So I'm not sure what's going to be happening there.
Well, again, I want to bring us back to the original question. How are you feeling about Arsenal and their direction after what we've seen at the start of this season?
I'm not worried.
Like I'm early for that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything necessarily to be worried about. Like I can see.
Are you brighter than? All right. Are you brighter? Do you feel better about Arsenal than you did at the start of the season, before the season started?
I think I feel the same. I think I'm still worried about where the goals come from. Like, But then again, like Jesus hasn't played yet, and like I think Nketiah still outscored Jesus, even though Jesus was injured for like 2 or 3 months last year. But like I'm still not sure where the goals are going to come from. Like we don't have that centre forward that's going to score like guaranteed 20 goals. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. But that's still a carryover from last year. But it seems like with this new system that there's more control over the game. But then there's less. There's going to be less openings then, because like there's no overlapping, for instance, on that right hand side, and there's going to be less help for Saka.
See, I'm unsure if I feel worse about Arsenal than I did before the season started. But the fact that I'm unsure maybe is the sign that like it's not good, because I don't know. Do you think the way that I'm not going to say capitulated. They didn't capitulate in the run into the title. City are a steamroller. But was the end of last season enough to say we should tinker with this in, I won't say wholesale ways, because tinkering isn't wholesale sort of changes anyway. But was it enough to say, if I'm Arteta, should I mess with this? Should I dabble with it? Should I put Partey there? Should I take Gabriel out of the team? Should I put Havertz there? Should I be doing these kinds of things? Should I even be looking to play Timber as a left back? I know he's out of the picture now, but do I need to do this? Or was the way we were playing, even at the back end of last season, is it good enough to go into the next season with, and like you say, with Rice instead of Xhaka?
I'm not sure.
I'm
I'm
yeah,
not
I'm
sure it's
more inclined to say,
tinkering.
yeah, go on.
I'd say it's more Arteta's trying to evolve the team into something more.
So, and are you positive? Are you positive about that direction, about that evolution?
Well, here's the thing though. Like, if you're going to be evolving the team, then the teams to try out this. We didn't actually see it in preseason at all. Partey at right back from memory. So if there's going to be any sort of evolution, then the teams to try out against are these weaker teams that are going to be finishing mid-table or lower mid-table.
You've wasted 2 points against Fulham. I don't know if you would have won playing with Gabriel.
Yeah,
I don't know what happens there. But
maybe bringing Gabriel on in the 80th minute to shore things up. Maybe he would have helped organise and defend the corner better. Maybe, but that mistake came from a bad, like the opening goal came from a really bad pass from Saka. Like it wasn't Partey.
Yeah, but can I also say
getting caught out at right back?
Can I also say much like the Matip one for Liverpool? If Gabriel's in the team, Saliba is further to the right. Saliba's instincts aren't to go into midfield when Arsenal have possession. His instincts are to stay and be the last man out. So I think he's in a position to stop anything coming from that poor Saka pass, but because now he's further over on the other side, there is no Gabriel and Ben White. To the point, his instincts are to go into midfield or to start to support Saka. Then there's this huge gap. I know Saka makes an egregious mistake with the pass, but even if he makes that mistake with Gabriel in the team, does it lead to that? Maybe not. I would argue it doesn't. So this tinkering to get more, to your point, control on the ball against these lower teams. I'm not saying I completely disagree with the thought behind it because maybe you want the extra man in there. But again, I'm also not saying that the way they were playing last season should really have been tampered with. It just, for me, it should maybe have just been upgraded with Declan Rice for Granit Xhaka. And to your point, goals, a striker from somewhere. Although Gabriel Jesus, he just doesn't have a track record of doing it, but it gives you so much in terms of non-goals, so maybe it's just Martinelli and Saka taking their goals to the next level as well, even though they were awesome for what they did output-wise last season.
They both had like 15 each, but I think because Jesus he probably sacrifices hit like 5 to 10 goals himself, and by
the Firmino role.
By bringing players out of position, or by taking the defense out of position that allows space for Martinelli and Saka. But yeah, look, I'm not worried right now.
You shouldn't be worried. I'm not worried either. I'm just a little unsure. That's all I'm saying.
Look, would we be having this conversation if they won 2-1 or if they won 2-0? Like if the mistake didn't happen at all? Like that's the thing. Like you're already on the back foot from the first minute. Fulham are already going to come to the Emirates playing defensive, so they can sit 5-10 meters deeper from the first minute. It's like, well, like you're already going to have to break, like before the goal even happens, you're already going to have to start breaking them down like a defensive block. And now you're going to have to start breaking down an even deeper defensive block. So, and I think...
again, I'm arguing maybe that doesn't happen if your mindset is to have another defender in the team.
I'm not completely sure because like that pass was so bad. Like it caught everyone off guard. It even caught Ramsdale because Ramsdale, like he pushed up forward out like to the edge of his box, so he was caught.
No, I get it. We're talking about ifs and buts.
Yeah,
I can't say anything with certainty, but
and I don't think, for instance, like Ben White stepped into the midfield. Like I think he was in his position,
but he wasn't there. He wasn't there when that pass went that far.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying, someone with more defensive instincts might be there. They might be somewhere to at least affect the play and not let Pereira have a shot or anything.
For instance, this was a completely different situation to the Trent one because this was a pass directly to the Fulham player or directly in front of him into like
Well, we don't
into
need
like
to
no
litigate it more.
space.
I get it. It's ifs and buts where we saw what happened. It was, both were egregious errors by the named players Trent and Saka, but like for me as in coach think, I always have safety nets for as many situations as I can have. And that's just another one that could have been possible. So, like I said, I think you're at the right place in terms of where you feel about Arsenal. I'm not putting too much doubt into them. I think they've been... I don't know if I'd even go as far as good in the opening games.
They've been
I would
okay.
go as far as... Well, just on the curve that they're scaled on.
They've
Like, in terms of... In comparison to... Like teams challenging for top 4, yes, they've been good. There's no doubt.
they've been okay. They haven't set the world alight. Like last year, like they were. You're like, this is amazing football. Like, wow,
it was.
Maybe against Crystal Palace in certain moments, you're like, wow, like this is like really nice. Against Fulham, I didn't get that feeling at all. I did sort of get that feeling against Forest in the opening game. I was like, wow, they're playing some really nice football. But it does seem a little less fluid. But I guess playing a new system with players in certain positions, you would lose fluidity. But yeah, I'm still not convinced about Havertz in the 8. Maybe Vieira looked fantastic in the 8, but he had a full season playing under Arteta. So maybe Arteta should put a little bit more trust into Vieira. And he's a left footer like Granit Xhaka. So
we miss Granit Xhaka.
honestly, like I was saying,
he's better than Kai Havertz for that role.
No, but
there's no doubt about
but
that.
honestly, even at the end of last season, I was like, I'd still rather keep Xhaka and get Declan Rice in. Like losing Xhaka will still be a pretty big loss, and so far it is proving to be a big loss.
Yeah, definitely. And Leverkusen are flying as well in the Bundesliga. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to see any of their matches yet.
No?
Which is so
because they're just not showcasing him?
No, because KO Sports doesn't have it anymore, and like I have to Google search games, and the Bundesliga has been notoriously bad for leaving big games off the docket as well.
Move to Europe, son. Yeah. I get every single league for €18.
Well, it's a crime that you don't watch it, man. But yeah, I think
I don't have that
on the
much
flip
time.
side. I think on the flip side, though, one team who I do feel very sure about is Manchester City because they maybe look better than they did last season. I know that their game, they could conceivably be on 2 wins and a draw as well, although they have played Newcastle in one of those games, so that's a big win. But conceivably, they could have dropped points against Sheffield United on the weekend. They didn't because of a point that, well, I'll bring it up from the start. We were talking about Kevin De Bruyne and how his absence might be felt, particularly by Haaland, but just in general. But honestly, between Alvarez, who I think is obviously not as good a player as De Bruyne yet, but he is still an exceptional player to be deputising for De Bruyne. And between that and the evolution, much like Casemiro last season, of Rodri in that box midfield where he gets more freedom, he is a viable weapon going forward. And like you just have to look at the goal he scores in the Champions League final to win it. I think he scored one against Bayern, didn't he, earlier on in the quarters, round of 16, whatever it was. And then obviously a big goal and a really good goal as well against Sheffield United in this game. He is a player who I think is capable of doing a little bit more, and hopefully he doesn't, like Casemiro, take it to the next level where he thinks he can do everything, because there are better players more equipped to do everything in the offensive sense for Manchester City. But he is definitely a player who can do more going forward, and he's starting to show it, and he's evolving. So I think between him and Alvarez, yeah, we'll fill De Bruyne's absence. There's no doubt Kevin De Bruyne is Kevin De Bruyne. But, man, they've got some good pieces to bring in. I mean, to your point as well, Kovacic for Gundogan, that's like for like.
Maybe like 5% upgrade, slightly, I'd even say. I'd go with saying it's a
hard to say
slight.
because
Maybe it's a slight
Gundogan
upgrade.
was
I'd
so
say.
good in the system, though. He
Yeah.
was so good for Man City in doing that. But yeah, I get the point. I think Kovacic's ceiling might be a little bit higher, but how he fits into the system, there might be some teething problem. We haven't seen it. I mean, Guardiola was shaky in the UEFA Super Cup, but that was about it.
Was that his first starting game?
That was his debut, I think. Oh, he came on in the first Premier League game.
But it was his first game that he started, I think.
Yeah, the only thing I was a bit unsure of in this Sheffield United game for Man City was Nathan Ake as the central centre back, while Ruben Diaz had to play sort of right centre back. I always prefer Ruben Diaz, but I get he didn't want a left footer on the right, so he wanted the right footer. And to be fair, Nathan Ake has actually become a really good centre back in the last couple of seasons, so maybe that's fine. I didn't expect to see Manuel Akanji playing as that defender who goes into midfield, but he did a fine job apparently. But the main thing with Manchester City, we've touched on filling De Bruyne's shoes, but the main thing with Man City is I think they want to be Mourinho's Chelsea in in 2004, 2005, 2006. I think their goal is going to be the best defence in the league. They were equal best last season. I think they want to be 100% nailed on the best defence. I think they want to try and concede 20 or less goals this season. I don't know if they'll be able to do it, but let's not get distracted by their flashy players going forward. This team is built on their defence and built on their defensive record and built on this new way that Pep just wants the best defenders in the team. And I, for one, I like that. I applaud that. He sort of went heel turn last season, and I guess he had to surprise Arteta and surprise himself maybe with going this kind of not full anti-football. You can't say that about Pep Guardiola, but it was definitely a more of a look towards being a resolute team defensively and dealing with the physical challenges and dealing with balls into the box and just being a really good defensive team. And when you're built on that foundation, I think you've got a great chance of going and winning. And like I said, this is why they're my pick for the league and winning more league titles. So, yes, there's a chance that maybe, to your point, to what you said 2 weeks ago about Man City, the motivation factor, we don't know. Let's see what they're doing in those winter months where it's cold and it's harder to play and you're going every 3 days and you're going to the weird places around the country and playing on, well, it's hard to say not the best pitches anymore because all Premier League pitches are perfect. But yeah, those cold winter months, let's see what the motivation is then. But right now, they've just picked off where they've left off last season and maybe look even better in doing it, particularly defensively for me.
The thing is, like, with that motivation, like, for instance, Haaland is always going to be motivated. He looks like he looks like the next, in terms of self-motivation and like work ethic, I think he could be the next coming of Ronaldo. Like, not saying skill-wise and all that stuff, but like he looks like he has his head screwed on right. But then you've also slotted in 2 players who are new to the team directly into the starting 11, not just into the squad, but like in Kovacic and Guardiola. Kovacic has won it all.
And let's not forget, and this is maybe by design, well, it's not by design, but Alvarez as well.
Alvarez, yeah, but here's the thing though. Alvarez said last season he's won everything with this team, but he wasn't one of the main guys. Now he's got an opportunity.
He's got something to prove.
He's got an opportunity to be the main guy and to try and carry this team. So there's already like 4 players there that I've mentioned who they're sort of new to the team. They're still hungry and they want to prove themselves.
I'd even throw Rodri in there as well for the reasons that I said as well.
Yeah,
I think he wants to become the best midfielder in the world.
Yeah, you can probably throw him in too. Foden, let's see how his hunger is, because now he has a fantastic opportunity with Mahrez leaving as well, and with De Bruyne injured, and with Gundogan leaving, even though Kovacic came in for a like replacement, he has an.
It was man of the match against Newcastle, wasn't he? I think so.
Yeah, but he has an excellent opportunity to get back into this team because he was like pretty much shunned from the team after the World Cup last year. So this is his opportunity to prove himself and to get his hunger back. So that's already like 5-6 players who might be able to motivate the rest of the team enough to go on and possibly win another treble or even a quadruple.
Yeah. And I think this is a point that can't be missed with Pep Guardiola. I think, particularly since he's come to England, his greatest influence and the guy he wants to emulate the most is Fergie. He wants to be. I think we've never seen Pep stay this long at a club. Even Barcelona, we couldn't see him stay this long at. So the fact that he runs the show, no one's going to question him, and no one should question him because Pep freaking Guardiola. And he's got a chance to. I'm not saying 27 years. He's not going to do 27 years. I can almost guarantee that. But I think he wants to. We saw it last season with the way he approached the media with the mind games against Arsenal. I think he took influence from Fergie there, and I think with this squad updating and this squad planning, I think obviously it's not all him because modern day it's not all the manager on transfer decisions and whatnot. But there's no doubt he would have an influence on this. So I think we're seeing more of. He wants to be like Fergie in terms of that winning season after season and always being a contender and always being the team to beat in the league. The team that, if you can beat that team, you will win the league title. There was only very few seasons where Manchester United finished outside the top two under Fergie when they became a dominant force in the Premier League. So
how many titles did Fergie win?
Was it 13?
13. And Pep's already won 5?
Or is it 6 now? It's a 5. 5 sounds right.
I think he's won 5 with City. So
yeah,
you want
to get all the way to that number? Yeah, that's the question.
He needs another 8.
Well, I wouldn't put it past him doing it in maybe not 8 years, but maybe 10
he did sign a 3-year extension last year, so he's there for another 3 years minimum. And he's also now the equal most winning Champions League manager with 3. So he's tied. He's tied Ancelotti and.
No, Ancelotti has 4.
Does he?
2 at Milan and 2 at Real in 2 different stints.
Yeah. So. And
Fergie only had 2.
Yeah, and Zidane. So he's already got him there, but like Zidane also has 3. But yeah, like he definitely, depending on how long he stays at City.
Isn't this indicative of how good we think Manchester City are, that we're 3 weeks into the season and we're talking about Guardiola's trophies and legacy
winning another
against
8.
the others? Yeah, winning another league title like it's nothing. Maybe winning another Champions League equal at Ancelotti. I think that just says it all about how we feel about Manchester City right now. But the season is long, and that is subject to change if we see changes.
But you know what would be the ultimate insult probably to, like the ultimate dagger in the heart to Fergie, like for Guardiola to decide to stay there, win another 8, and then win another 9 to get to 14, so he wins more Premier Leagues with the direct rival of United.
Yeah,
and he does it just while Fergie is still alive as well, so he makes him watch it.
Yeah. Do you reckon he didn't say it overtly, but in his head he had the knocking Manchester United and Fergie off his fucking perch when he came, much like Fergie did to us. So, man, I don't know. They'll be interesting. They're definitely my favourites. I think they're the team I feel the most secure in saying they should win the league, but we're 3 games in. So, again, I'll say that. But do you have anything more on the Premier League, or should we just wrap up? I'll make it quick, but
not really.
Wrap up with some continent stuff.
Yeah, you can. I'll give the floor to you because I don't really have much to add to the Premier League because I feel like we covered most of it, at least like over the last 3 weeks. Like we sort of touched on the Tomiyasu red card, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
But all in all, like touching on refereeing, I think refereeing overall has been okay for the first 3 weeks.
It's been fine.
Yeah, let's hope it continues that way. And did you see? I think Mike Dean said how he didn't send his friend to VAR just because.
His mate.
Yeah, Oh man, we're getting. Hopefully that shit will be eliminated this year. It seems like
Hey,
it. It
I'm just
seems
gonna
like that
say
sort of
this.
stuff is being eliminated.
This is a very unpopular opinion, but I'm just gonna say it. I love Mike Dean and I love Mateo Lahoz. I'm sorry for it. I don't know, but like I just love watching the theater of those guys when they were refereeing games. So, like I know that's an unpopular opinion, but sorry everyone. I kind of like it when those guys are out there refereeing games.
I just want.
You hate it. You hate that.
I hate it, man. I just want some good refereeing, not to ruin the game, and not for them to put the focus on themselves. But yeah. Anyway, Caleb, I'll hand it over to you for the continental stuff.
Yeah, well, I think
Give us a quick wrap.
Yeah, quick wrap. Spain is going as planned, although Barcelona had a very exciting game against Villarreal on the weekend where they were 3-2 down. They were 2-0 up, and then they were 3-2 down, and then they scored 2 goals in 4 minutes between Ferran Torres and Lewandowski to turn it around. So, worrying signs because Ronald Araujo's not in the team. They're conceding 3 goals, which they never would have done last season. But like I said, I think they'll regress.
Hey, is his a serious injury? Did we talk about that?
I don't know how serious it is, but he's another player who's in the bracket of injury prone now, I think. And that's bad news for Barcelona. Although they will be getting João Cancelo in, Jules Koundé is still a good defender. We'll see what happens with Barcelona. But anyway, it's still them. Atletico, who won 7-0. I haven't been able to watch it this morning, but they won 7-0. And I think they're equal on points with Barcelona so far. They're very much doing their trick from last season, which for the second half of last season, they were great. So I expect them to be in the top 3. But the team who you picked to win the league and who have probably been the most impressive in La Liga, and it's all because one man with the number 5's come in there, the famous Real Madrid number 5, and he has scored in every appearance he's made in La Liga so far and popped up with the winner against Celta Vigo in what was a really good match on the Friday night, actually, really engrossing encounter. But yeah, he pops up with another winner, and Real Madrid have won all 3 of their games. Bad news, though, Vinny is out for, I think, maybe a month, maybe longer.
What's with all these injuries?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can't. We might need to touch on that if we keep seeing him in other pods. But yeah, Real Madrid in particular have been hit very hard by the injuries. But honestly, when you look at their starting 11, now that Vinny's out, it changes things. But before that, despite losing Militao and Thibaut Courtois to cruciate injuries, which I don't like that Kepa's now in goal for Real Madrid. That one doesn't fill me with confidence at all. But apart from that, being able to bring Rudiger in for Militao, that's fine. That's almost a 1-for-1. So Real Madrid on paper still look great, but now they're relying on Alaba, Rudiger, Kepa. I mean, Alaba needs to be fit. What I mean by saying that, and yeah, they're relying a lot on Bellingham's goals, but Jude Bellingham is showing himself to be going to the next level apparently this season, and he just keeps getting better. We should probably touch on the ridiculous... I know it's weeks back now, but did you see the ridiculous story that came out of Dortmund about players being happy to... Dortmund were happy for
that.
Oh my God, how embarrassing. How embarrassing that you would put that out there as Dortmund. It's like, oh, we hated that this guy was like so much better than us, that he was stealing all the limelight. Yeah, sorry guys, he was so much better than all of the other players in Dortmund. He really was. He was the number 1 guy, and it was clear. So sorry that this guy was so good and you felt jealous of him, pretty much. Ridiculous story. And I think, honestly, if we go across to Germany, I think we'll see Dortmund. I'm not nailing them into the top 4, by no means. Now, I think they should finish in the top 4. But with the rise of Leverkusen, with Leipzig starting the season pretty well, although they got beaten by Leverkusen, I think, last weekend. But with those 2 teams coming into the mix, Bayern Munich, I expect to trounce the league. They didn't look fantastic in their win, but Harry Kane has hit the ground running. And they've added Harry Kane. So what the hell more do we need to say? I still don't love that he trusts Upamecano, but what are you going to do? I'm happy that Goretzka's back in the fold and he's playing next to Kimmich, and he needs a revenge season because he wasn't very good last season. Kingsley Coman looks like, if he can stay fit, touch wood, he can go to the next level this season. And yeah, having Harry Kane is going to make Leroy Sané, is going to make Serge Gnabry and Kingsley Coman all better players. So yeah, Bayern should easily be your pick for the Bundesliga, if not the Champions League this season, because on paper I think they are the best team in Europe, even better than Manchester City on paper. But I trust Manchester City's manager a little bit more. But that's a discussion for another day when we get closer to the Champions League stuff. But they should trounce the Bundesliga. Bayern should absolutely trounce it. PSG are not very convincing in France. They beat Lens, who, let's put it this way, Lens are no longer a second-place team in Liga or the best team in Liga because they lost Lois Openda and Seiko Fofana, and I would think that they should probably lose Facundo Medina at some point. Maybe not this window, but maybe in January. I think given that they'll be playing Champions League, they haven't really updated any positions. The best that they could really hope for is perhaps I don't know, top half of the table, maybe, if they could do that. They still looked pretty good against PSG, like systematically, they still looked like Lens. They're just missing their best defensive players. And if you contradict that to what happened in Germany with Union Berlin after their fantastic season, they have signed reinforcements in the summer. I think they've brought in Robert Gosens as a wing back. They've brought in Kevin Volland up front. They got someone in on loan. Oh, I forget, but I was quite impressed with the signing that they made. But yeah, then Lens did not do that. PSG, they should trounce Liga just because there shouldn't be that much competition, especially after Alexis Sanchez left Marseille to go to Inter. I know they got Joaquin Correa back, but that's not the same for me. So yeah, that should be easy enough for them. But they don't look great doing it. They went a very no rotation sort of system when they got Mbappe and Dembele back in the team. We'll see more. I don't know if there's much more to say from Liga, but the one that's gripped me back, and it started, and we haven't talked about it yet because we didn't really do a preview on it. Serie A. I think my picks for the Serie A title, I'd be interested to see if you have any feelings on who your picks, but I know I've had 2 weeks, so this is a bit of cheating, 2 weeks to view it, but I think AC Milan will be maybe not even a dark horse. They'll be one of the 3. Napoli, again, have to be one of the 3, given that they kept most of their players. And I think Inter will be the 3rd. And it'll be between those 3, I think. Juve, I don't think they looked good in the first game. Look, what I'll say about Juve, they probably have the best defence out of any of them, with Alexandro, Bremer, Danilo. Szczesny hopefully comes back at some point and plays behind them. And then Locatelli in front of them. I think defensively they have the highest ceiling. But they're going to be too reliant on Chiesa and Vlahovic. And honestly, I've soured a bit on both of those players after the 12 months they had last season. I've probably soured a little bit on Max Allegri as well, to come up with something that consistently gets Juve playing well. So I don't expect them to quite be challenging for the top, but they don't have any European football to distract them. So maybe that'll help them. Maybe they'll get them into a rhythm. And if Vlahovic and Chiesa can look good again, then they've got a chance of challenging for the title. But they didn't look good at home against Bologna, and they could only draw that game 1-1. Who else is there? Roma have made a terrible start to the season. They've upgraded central midfield, arguably upgraded it, but they still haven't got a goal scorer in. If Roma could get Lukaku, I don't know about a title challenge given how poor the start of the season has been, but actually, well, maybe they can. If they could get Lukaku in and he can hit the ground running, he's probably the signing who could change Roma's fortunes the most, given that they need a goal scorer. Atalanta, I don't know, neither here nor there. Lazio will drop off big time because they lost Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, and they haven't really added anything in the summer, so I don't expect them to be... Well, they've started terribly as well. So the 2 Rome clubs have started terribly. Given that, I don't know if they'll challenge for top 4 this year. Maybe, hopefully for their sake, they will. But yeah, without SMS in there, that's really bad news. So for me, it comes down to a hopefully reinvigorated AC Milan. But also, we can't forget that AC Milan don't really need to be that reinvigorated because they still have maybe the best left. Well, for me, the best left back in the world, maybe the best goalkeeper in the world. He's in that bracket in Mike Mignon, and one of the best left wingers in the world, which is a stacked position in world football at the moment. So between Mike Mignon, Theo Hernandez, and Rafael Leao, and the fact that Theo Hernandez and Rafael Leao can directly combine, they've got the best 1-2 punch, one of the best in Europe. Like, I would put it up with anyone up there. So, and the pieces that they've added, Pulisic hit the ground running. Giroud started really well. So yeah, I still don't love the midfield, but their ceiling's so high because of those players. But they've also maybe got a lower floor than any of the others. Obviously, the lack of continuity at Napoli with the manager, but the fact that they haven't lost Victor Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia. I don't know if he must be injured because I haven't seen him yet this season. So, but the fact that they've still got Victor Osimhen, who I think is at 3 goals in the first 2 games in Syria, you can't rule them out. And the fact that that's pretty much still the core of the team that won the title last season, I wouldn't rule them out. But I think my pick would be Inter. I don't know if it'll be. Oh man, I don't know.
Even though they lost one of their midfield stalwarts, and
they've lost their goalkeeper and they lost their centre back in Skriniar and Onana. And yeah, they lost Lukaku, but they also picked up Alexis Sanchez. And if he could be anywhere near as good as he was at Marseille in Italian football, then that's actually a pickup. So, and Lautaro looks like he's ready to again go to the next level. He started the season like a house of fire. So the thing with Inter is they've lost those key foundational pieces, which is why I err about making them my pick for the title. But they have the continuity in the manager, which Napoli don't have. They have more continuity in player, the same amount of continuity in players as AC, but I think they have a more solid system in that 5-3-2. And their pieces, I think their pieces around. See, I think AC have a better 1-2 punch in Leao and Theo, but I think Inter have more better pieces around the park. When you think Federico Di Marco is a fantastic wing back, and so is Denzel Dumfries. He looks like he's reinvigorated after last season, back to what he was doing 2 seasons ago. When you think Lautaro is a stalwart, he's the captain. He's one of the best maybe one of the most underrated strikers in Europe. They still have Nicola Barella, and they have Jan Sommer. They've brought in a able replacement. I think maybe Bayern was too big a test for Jan Sommer, and not just Bayern trying to come in for Manuel Neuer. I think Inter's a better sized club for Jan Sommer, and they're looking to get Pavard in. I don't know if he's a game changer, but he's a nice piece for how they play. So maybe the centre back is just the one, but Bastone is also young, and you expect him to go to the next level as well. So if I don't know if there is a central centre back that could be an upgrade for them to come in, but yeah, I think their pieces, I think their overall starting 11 is probably that, coupled with the continuity that Napoli don't have. I think that's why they're my pick, but I think it's open between those 3 teams, and then it's open between the rest for that top 4. But I think the quality of the title race should be pretty decent in Serie A this season. I'm quite hopeful.
Yeah, I think it was pretty decent last season as well. I know Napoli ran away with it, but I think this
the quality of the champion was great last season, but there was no title race.
Yeah, but I still think, I think this year you will see a title race. You won't see one team just running away with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, that's where we're at on the continent for me so far. Yeah.
You know, one thing that just did come to mind is that we need to stop saying top 4 in England, because I think it's top 5 now.
I know. I was shocked when I found that out. But
yeah. So that
now
means
that's top 5.
I'm not sure I'm a fan about that.
I'm not either, but I think it is better for them.
But that could also mean 6 teams, depending on how they do it. But that could mean 6 teams if you have an English Europa League winner, right? Or does
Yeah, that's a good point.
or because there's going to be 5 already, does that mean that
No, I
the
think
fifth team
I think the
doesn't
fifth might miss out.
if there's an English Europa League winner? But we'll see how
Yeah, I
how
think
they
that's how
run it.
they've done it because didn't Tottenham had to miss out when they finished fourth when Chelsea won it or something, didn't they? Because after that fiasco about Liverpool winning the Champions League but finishing outside of the top four, they had to sort of think about it a bit more, and
No,
I think the
I
rule
think that
was
was I don't think Tottenham missed out. I think they were going to miss out if I think Chelsea needed to win it, and also some. I think it was United that needed to win the Europa League, and Chelsea needed to win the Champions League or something like that, and then that way they would miss out because Chelsea and United were both outside the top four. I think it was something along those lines.
yeah, we're bumbling
Like
through this. We'll need
you
to look
needed
that one
two
up.
winners from outside the top four, and then the fourth team would actually miss out.
But yeah, it's crazy that it's top five now.
Yeah.
And we're so accustomed to saying top four.
Yeah, it's
And it makes our discussion so much more interesting when we're saying top four as well, I
yeah, I
feel.
know. But if
well.
had they have changed it last year, then Liverpool would have got in.
Hey, we're in a trophy that we could actually win this season.
Yeah,
though.
true.
You're
Wait,
okay.
do the other teams get a fifth spot as well, like Spain and Italy, or no?
Yeah, I don't know. I need to look into the qualification process now because, like you say, we've been saying top four, but we should be saying top five. So that's how little I know about how it is going to work with the 48 teams next season.
Do they add 16 teams? I thought they only added 8 teams. I'm not sure.
Or is it 40? So
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
okay.
anymore.
We need to look into it again.
They're always changing that shit. Bring back the classic Champions League, which actually the
What, the
champions.
champion?
It's actually the champion of each league.
Let's go back to the 70s, man.
The
50s,
real
60s,
Champions
70s.
League.
Oh, I love that. You could be playing against the champions of Cyprus in the Champions League quarterfinals.
But like, I think I mentioned it before. Like the UEFA Cup, which is like that secondary one, that was actually considered more. It wasn't more prestigious, but it was harder to win just because you had like the second, third, and I think fourth from certain leagues. So you'd have like those 3 teams
Yeah.
in that competition. Whereas like obviously the Champions League only had just the one team from each competition.
Yeah, exactly. But it was still the trophy with the big ears. It's the one that counts the most.
Yeah. Even though probably back in the day it shouldn't have, but it's just more prestigious, and now it counts for the most, obviously.
Well, you could say like it's you could say
But
the
for
UEFA
football-
Cup was harder to win, but it wasn't harder to win because you needed to win your league just to get into
but football was
the
probably
European Cup.
yeah. But like for instance, what about like a team like Liverpool who's like missing out by 1 point, but then they're falling into the
Tough
UEFA
titties.
Cup.
It's tough titties. You didn't win the league. You don't get a chance to win that trophy with the big ears, the one that.
But
So
football
important.
was probably also more fairer back then because did Steaua Bucharest win or did they only make the final like twice? Did they win
No,
it?
they won it. I think 89. I'm tempted to say.
Yeah, so like you had
Maybe it was before that.
so it was probably more fair.
Red Star won one, I think, as well.
They won did they win the last?
The last one before it went to the Champions League.
Yeah, I think they won the last non-one. But so like, it was a lot more fair.
Feyenoord
obviously.
have one. Celtic have one.
Forest have 2.
Forest have 2. Back to back as well.
Yeah.
Villa have one.
Yeah, there's some teams there that you never would have picked them to have it won. Marseille they won the first Champions League, didn't they?
Yeah, but it's still. I think that one's still shrouded in controversy. For like, I think it was match fixing or something. But officially,
take
they
it away
still
from
have it.
them. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
take
it's
it
still
away from
theirs apparently.
them. All right, Caleb. I think we'll wrap it up there on a bit of
Nostalgia.
bit of nostalgia and a bit of dodgy talk about match fixing and whatnot. We will try to do a preview because I think it's Arsenal United, so we'll try and figure out a day to catch up and try and preview that one. That should be a big game. And I won't be able to watch it live because I should be playing this Sunday, so that sucks. damn it.
That sucks. I gotta play
Sucks. Gotta play football. Well, hopefully it's not like 30 plus degrees. I think it was like 38 on Saturday and then like 37 on Sunday that they played. So yeah, hopefully it's
Not
like
for me.
hopefully it's
Not
like
for
it's like a
me.
nice
That's not
28.
football conditions.
Nah, it's not. That's what you got at the start of the season. But anyway, Caleb, and to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And thanks for coming. And bye for now.